Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for another video. We got a fun one prepared for you today. We're going to be looking at all of our college football top 25 games for week 11 of the 2024 college football season. We're going to quickly break these games down and try to predict the outcome, who's going to win, who's going to lose, what the final score will be. We will also mention the money lines, spreads, over-unders. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe. If you have any comments about these games or anything else, please drop them below and I will respond. Every week we go over every single college football game, the top 25 ones, the non-top 25 ones. We also do the same thing for every NFL game as well. If you're a football fan, if you're a sports fan, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel so you can follow along with us this season. This is going to be our quick picks. We're going to run through them really quick. If you want a more in-depth breakdown, I have some videos from previous this week. But let's go ahead and get started running through these games. Kicking things off Saturday, November 9th, we have number 4 Miami Hurricanes versus Georgia Tech. This game is at 12 p.m. It's going to be on ESPN. It's going to be a fun one because this is the kneeling game from last season. Mark Cristobal should have took a knee, didn't. They fumbled, got the Hail Mary, lost the game. They want revenge here. They want to beat Georgia Tech. The biggest question here is Georgia Tech's quarterback Haynes King going to be playing this game? Missed the last 2 games, or Georgia Tech dropped the last 2. He's the difference maker, was the leading touchdown passer in the ACC last season, but Miami has the Heisman frontrunner. They have Ward closing in on 3,200 yards, 29 touchdowns, 6 picks, and Haynes King can throw it. He can run it, but Miami has the number 1 offense in the nation. They average 47.4, throwing for 383.3, running for 186.4. That defense giving up 22.6. Their defense in total yardage given up is actually number 18. They do give up 236 yards through the air. Their weakness is their secondary. You can throw on them. That's why Haynes King playing is so important, but it is very hard to run on the Hurricanes. They only give up 95 yards on the ground. They are loaded. Ward, Restrepo, Martinez, Lyle, Arroyo, George Horton. So many weapons on offense. They have weapons on defense. Georgia Tech averaging 27.7, throwing for 248, running for 177, giving up 22.4 points a game. They have Jamal Haynes at the running back position. He's also banged up. This is a banged up Georgia Tech team. We don't know who the quarterback is. I'm just going to assume everyone's healthy, but I still have Miami winning this game 44-28. Fourth quarter heroics from Cam Ward takes it. And then on ABC at 12 p.m., 4-4 University of Florida versus number 5 Texas, 7-1. This game is in Austin. Texas has a 90.9% chance to win this game, and they're 21.5-point favorites. That's a big spread for an SEC game. The over-under here is 47.5. Florida has the most difficult college football schedule I've ever seen in my life. It is atrocious. They're down to their 3rd-string quarterback. They're down Mertz. They're down Lagway. They're going with Warner now. The cards are stacked against them. They're banged up. They've been playing tough. But can they go to Texas and beat Texas with their 3rd string? I don't think so. Right now, Florida, they're averaging 29.5, throwing for 255, running for 145. That defense is giving up 24.9. It is a much improved defense over last season, but they just don't have enough to be able to line up with Texas on both sides of the ball. Right now, Quinn Ewers closing on 1,400 yards, 14 touchdowns, 6 picks. They're averaging 37.6, throwing for 309.3, running for 158.4. They're only giving up 11.5 points a game. That's a top 10 defense. They have a top 10 offense. They have the number 4 overall roster. Ewers, Wisner, Helm, Bond. Lots of weapons. Their sight is set on the SEC championship and on the playoffs. Texas cruises here 38-16. And then 12 p.m. on Fox, we have Purdue 1-7, probably the worst team in the Big Ten, versus number 2 Ohio State Buckeyes 7-1. I said last week they should not have been 3 in the AP poll. The college football poll did fix that and move them up to 2. This game is going to be at 12 p.m. The Buckeyes have a 99% chance to win this game. This spread actually keeps moving up. They are 38.5-point favorites. Massive spread. The over-under is 53.5. Purdue is probably one of the worst teams in the nation. An awful offense. An awful defense. They're only averaging 20.3 points a game, and the Buckeyes are averaging 37.8. Purdue also gives up 36.9 points a game. They give up about 470 yards of offense every single game. Card is going to have a lot of issues here. They will try to run the ball, but Ohio State has the number 1 talented defense, a top 10 defense overall. They're throwing for 278.8, running for 187. That defense only gives up 12 points a game, only 94.9 on the ground. They're going to make it especially difficult for Purdue. They have Howard, Junkins, Henderson, Smith, Egbuka. This team is loaded. They want that rematch with Oregon. I have them pulling their starters 4th quarter because they'll be up so much. There's no point in taking the chance of anyone getting hurt. You're almost to the end of the regular season. Cruise it out and replay Oregon. I have the Buckeyes winning this one 44-10. And then on ABC at 3:30, we have number 3 Georgia 7-1 Versus number 16, Ole Miss, 7-2. Ole Miss has dropped 2 conference games. They're probably not going to make the SEC championship, but as long as they win their games from here on out, finish the SEC 10-2, they will be making the playoffs. They have to run the table, though, to solidify that. Make sure that happens. Lane Kiffin has to rebound this team here. They got to get things on track. They have a 53.9% chance to win this game, but the Bulldogs are the favorite, 2.5-point favorite. The over-under is 54.5. The biggest issue for the Bulldogs is a consistent run game, getting pushed from the offensive line. Carson Beck has 8 turnovers his last SEC games. He's having an awful season so far, closing in on 2,400 yards, 17 touchdowns, 11 picks, but a lot of them in the last few weeks. And he wasn't under pressure, just really bad looks, averaging 33.1. Throwing for 307, running for 132. Georgia's known for the run game. They have to get back to the rush game, let the running game add to the passing game through play action. Their defense is giving up 17.3. For Ole Miss, they're averaging 42.1, throwing for 387.6, running for 178.3. A very balanced team and a top 10 defense, giving up 13.2. Only 82 on the ground. Georgia has issues running the ball anyways, and it's extremely hard to run on Ole Miss, and Ole Miss is more than capable of getting into a shootout. There's going to be a lot of pressure on Georgia's defense here. Ole Miss has a great 1-2-3 punch. Jackson Dart, Parrish Jr., Trey Harris, if he plays this game, is a top 3 college football wide receiver. I'm calling upset. I have Ole Miss winning this game 30-27, a close one. I'm not that confident in that. I'm not going to bet on this game, but I could definitely see the upset, but it's so close, it's practically a 50-50 pick'em game. And then on CBS at 3:30, we have 5-4 Michigan versus number 8 Indiana, 9-0. Welcome to the top 10. They have definitely earned it. Michigan is the underdog. Indiana, 86.8% chance to win this game. 14-point favorites versus the defending champs. 49.5 over-under. Props to Signetti here. This team came out of nowhere this season. They are curb stomping people in Big Ten conference play. Michigan just cannot move the ball. They can't throw the ball. Warren, Orgy, no one can consistently get first downs. They're only averaging 21 points a game. Throwing for 143, that's awful. Running for 165, their defense giving up 23.3, but they are on the field the whole game. They do have Loveland at the tight end position, Mullings, Edwards, but there's no one to consistently feed the ball to Loveland. He's the nation's #1 tight end, and for Indiana, the #2 offense, averaging 46.6, throwing for 289, running for 192, and a top 10 defense giving up 13.7 points a game, only 72 on the ground. Michigan loves to run the ball. Indiana loves to shut the run down. It's strength on strength. Who's going to win this game? I have Rourke and Indiana getting the win here. But just like last week, Michigan gets some second half garbage points, but Indiana still wins 34-20. And then at 3:30 p.m. on Fox Sports, number 17 Iowa State coming off a loss. They are 7-1. Only one conference loss, one loss overall. As long as you win out, you will be making the Big 12 championship. Don't panic. Everything is still in front of you. They'll be playing 2-6 Kansas, completely fallen off the rails this season. They were supposed to be competing for the Big 12. Now they have to win out just to make a bowl game. Iowa State having a great season from Beck. This is a Matt Campbell disciplined team. They love defense. They love competing in the trenches. They're averaging 30.5, throwing for 265, running for 179, giving up 15.5 on defense. One of the best defenses in the nation and quite possibly the best in the Big 12. Kansas, they're averaging 30, throwing for 205, running for 212, giving up 24.6. But a lot of their issues has been Jane Daniels and his turnovers, non-stop turnovers. Keep the turnovers down, man. He's finally healthy. But they do have Devin Neal, a top 10 in the nation running back. Iowa State does give up yards on the ground. They are susceptible to the run game. But can Neal carry this entire team over the line? Maybe. But I have Iowa State winning it 28-23. And then at 3:30, on ESPN2, we have number 25 Army, undefeated 8-0 versus North Texas, 5-3. Do not sleep on North Texas. They have a top 10 offense, and they are moving the ball. If Army doesn't play a clean game here, this could be an upset. Right now, Army 62.2% chance to win this game, 4-point favorites. Over-under is 63.5. There's going to be some points here. Army, the big question is Daly going to be playing at the quarterback position? He got banged up last week. No word as of yet. He's closing in on 700 yards, 7 touchdowns, 0 picks. But it's the amount of total touchdowns. He has 19 rushing touchdowns, as well as 7 passing touchdowns. Army runs the triple option. They keep the ball out of your hands. That's the style of play you want to play versus North Texas. They score points in bunches, so just keep their offense off the field. Army with the triple option, they're going to have 10 to 12 minute possession. Suck up the entire quarter, keep them off the field. But if North Texas gets the ball, Chandler Morris closing in on 2,900 yards, 26 touchdowns, 8 picks. They're averaging 40.8. They're throwing for 380. They're running for 156. It's the air raid plus because they can run the ball. but they are giving up 36.9 points a game. That is atrocious. They give up 177 on the ground versus the #1 rushing team in the nation, Army. If Daly plays, that's the question right now. I have Army winning this one, 33-24. If not, keep your eye for a potential upset here. And then at 3:30 on ESPN, we have number 19 Clemson 6-2. People were loving them some Clemson. I said last week, Clemson's offense is much better year 2 under Riley, but there's massive issues on defense. They give up way too many points, way too many yards, and that proved me right in the Louisville game. They got blown out. They'll be playing 5-4 Virginia Tech. Don't sleep on Virginia Tech. Just like Louisville, they're a lot better than their record, and they have a good run game. But Clemson has a 52.6% chance to win this game. They are 6-point favorites. The over-under's 53.5. Clemson, they're averaging 39.4. Klubnik having a good season, closing in on 2,100 yards, 21 touchdowns, 3 picks. They throw for 289. They run for 203. Their defense, though, giving up 24.3 points a game. That's the most I've seen in the Dabo Swinney era. For Virginia Tech, they're averaging 30.8. Drones closing in on 1,500 yards, 10 touchdowns, 6 picks. They throw for 198, but it's that running game, running for 201.4. Tootin is lighting things up at the running back position, closing in on 1,000 yards on the ground through 8 games. They're going to try to run all over Virginia Tech, and they are giving up, Clemson, and they are giving up 22.3 points a game. The big thing here is, will Clemson's defensive line be able to shut down Tootin? I think Virginia Tech gets a lot of yardage on the ground first half, but Clemson second half makes the proper adjustments. They win the game second half. They win this one 32-28. And then at 4 p.m. on Fox, you have number 20 Colorado Buffalo 6-2 versus Texas Tech 6-3. Coming off of that win versus top 10 Iowa State, don't sleep on Texas Tech. They have a top 5 running back in the country, and they score in bunches, but they give up points in bunches. Right now, Colorado 4-point favorite. The over-under 62.5. Shedeur Sanders closing in on 2,600 yards, 21 touchdowns, 6 picks. Morton's right there with him, closing in on 2,400 yards, 19 touchdowns, 5 picks. Colorado, they're averaging 31.4, one of the best passing teams in the nation, throwing for 349.4, running for 80.6. That's not that good, but they love to throw the ball. They're giving up 22 points a game. That's much improved over their defense from last season. A lot better tackling on defense. Texas Tech, they average 36.4. They throw for 293. They're running for 164. That could be the difference maker here, is the fact that they're not so pass-heavy reliant. They can run the ball with their running game, but they are giving up 34.4. That doesn't bode well versus a high-scoring Colorado team. They give up 315 through the air versus a Colorado team that averages 350. That's going to be a massive issue there. There's going to be guys wide open in the secondary the whole game. Shedeur Sanders will be hinting them. Travis Hunter, Horn. Right now for Texas Tech, they have Morton. Taj Brooks closing in on 1,100 yards so far. He could be the difference maker, and they have Kelly catching things. This game is going to be a shootout. We'll go down to the final possession. Who has the ball last will win this game. I have it being Colorado winning this one 37-34, but this game is going to be really close, and it's going to be fun. And then on 7 p.m. on the Big Ten Network, 4-4 Maryland versus number 1 Oregon Ducks, 9-0. Everything's in front of you right now. If you win out, you're making the Big Ten championship. Once you're up, big, pull your starters, rest them. Right now, Oregon, 25-point favorite. The over-under is 57.5. Maryland, Edwards Jr., they're going to have a lot of pressure in their face the whole game. They're averaging 28.6. They can throw the ball, throwing for 331. They run for 119. That defense gives up 27.8. But Oregon is loaded, top 10 roster, top 10 offense, top 10 defense. They have Dylan Gabriel, who's lighting things up, closing on 2,700 yards, 19 touchdowns, 5 picks. He's also rushed for 6 touchdowns, so that adds to the X factor there. They have a 93.5% chance to win this game. They're running for 168, throwing for 309. That defense only gives up 15.8 points a game. This is an amazingly rounded team. Props to Dan Lanning. This is the unanimous number 1 team so far through week 11 of the college football season. They have Gabriel, James, Tez Johnson's hurt, but he will be back soon. They have Stewart. Too much talent, too much speed. They win this one 38-17. And then on ESPN at 7 p.m., 2-7 Mississippi State, probably the worst team in the SEC under Jeff Lebby, versus number 7 Tennessee, 7-1. They have a top 10 defense right now, top 10 quarterback pressure, top 10 in sacks. Nico has to step up. He's played awful the last 6 games in SEC conference play. We need better performance from him under pressure. Right now, Mississippi State, they're averaging 29.1, throwing for 275, running for 143, but they're giving up 34.6 points a game. Tennessee's had issues the last 6 games moving the ball in SEC play, but Josh Heupel, one of the best offensive play callers, they will get things right at some point. What's the game where the offense starts to gel? They're averaging 38.1, throwing for 249.4, running for 234.5, probably the most rounded, best balanced team in all of college football. but it's that defense giving up 12.4 points a game. That defense can win you any game because it will keep every game as a one-possession game. They have Sampson, Thornton Jr., Squirrel White. Tennessee gets the offense going with the help of the defense. They win this one 38-16. And then at 7:30 p.m. on NBC, 1-8 Florida State. What a fall from grace they've had this season versus number 10 Notre Dame, 7-1. Notre Dame can't throw the ball with Leonard, but boy, can they run the ball with him and with Love, and they play elite top 10 defense. The defense is going to keep the field short, and they're just going to run it down your throat. Florida State has virtually no defensive line to stop anyone. Their strength was supposed to be their defensive line. It is atrocious. They give up 191 on the ground. They're only averaging 14.4. No matter who they roll out at the quarterback position, they're having issues moving and getting the ball. And I think they're 132nd out of 134 teams in total offense this season. They're only averaging about 280 offensive yards every game. Notre Dame averaging 36.6. Throwing for 198. They run for 217. Their defense gives up 12.1. They're going to make life very difficult for Florida State. I have Notre Dame cruising, running all over Florida State, winning this one 37-13. And then on ABC at 7:30, one of the best games of the weekend, number 11 Alabama 6-2 versus number 15 LSU 6-2. Whoever loses this game gets the third loss. Who can give the other team the third loss? That third loss could knock you out of the running for the playoffs. Bama 2.5-point favorites, 59.8% chance to win this game. The over-under here is 58.5. There's going to be a lot of points scored here. This is Kayla DeBoer versus Brian Kelly. Right now, Bama, they are led by Milroe, closing in on 2,000 yards, 13 touchdowns, 6 picks. Nussmeier for LSU, closing in on 2,700 yards, 20 touchdowns, 9 picks. Bama can run the ball, but a lot of the run game centers around Milroe. That's not going to cut it. They're averaging 37.6. Throwing for 270, running for 178, and that defense is giving up 18.6 points a game. They got to get that number a little lower. This is statistically the worst Alabama defense since 2004, and it's still a top 20 defense. Right now, LSU, they're averaging 32.8, throwing for 337.8, running for 115. The defense much better under Blake Baker, closing in on 22.8 points per game. There's a lot of playmakers here. Bama has the number 1 overall roster, but LSU has the talent, especially at the wide receiver position, to be able to compete with Alabama. This game's going to be a shootout, final possession, fourth quarter game. I have Alabama pulling it out at the very end with some scrambles from Milroe. They win this one 30-27. And then at 8 p.m. on Fox, 3-7 Nevada versus number 12 Boise State, 7-1. Right now, Boise State 94.3% chance to win this game. Lewis for Nevada, he has 11 touchdowns, 5 picks. They're averaging 24.6, but they're giving up 28.6. I wouldn't want to play Boise right now. They are leading the group of 5 for that final playoff spot. This team is really good with the best running back in the nation, but don't overlook Madsen at the quarterback position, closing in on 1,800 yards, 17 touchdowns, only 2 picks. They're averaging 45.8 a game, a top 5 offense, throwing for 244.5, running for 267.9, giving up 25.6 points a game. The defense has actually played pretty good the last 3 weeks, but it's the combination of Madsen and Ashton Gentry closing in on 1,600 yards, 21 touchdowns through 8 games. It's video game numbers. Boise's going to run all over Nevada. Just don't run Gentry too much. You don't want to get the guy hurt. You're going to win this game by a lot. Boise State wins 42-14. And then on 8 p.m. on Peacock, 5-4 Washington versus number 6 Penn State, 7-1, coming off that loss to the Buckeyes. Don't underestimate Washington here. They have an experienced veteran quarterback. They play top 20 defense. Washington's the underdog, though. Penn State 14-point favorite. The over here is 46.5. Washington and Will Rogers closing in on 2,300 yards, 13 touchdowns, 4 picks. Drew Waller, who has been banged up, is closing in on 1,800 yards, 12 touchdowns, 5 picks. Washington, they average 23.6 per game, but they're only giving up 19 points a game. This game is going to be low scoring. It's going to be a physical game decided in the trenches. But Penn State actually has a top 10 defense and one of the best 1-2 running back punches in the country. They have Allen, they have Singleton. They're going to line up. The game is going to be decided at the line of scrimmage. Who gets the most push? Penn State's averaging 30.8, only giving up that 15 a game. I have to give the edge to Penn State. They have to rebound here. They still have a shot to make the playoffs. Everything's in front of them. There's only a couple games left, and they're already 7-1. They're practically there. Just continue to win out, continue to roll. Penn State continues to roll here. They win this one 28-17. And then an ACC one at 8 p.m. on the ACC Network, 4-4 Virginia versus number 23 Pitt, 7-1 coming off that loss to SMU. They actually only have one loss, only one ACC loss. If they win out, they could still be a dark horse to make the ACC championship game. Virginia, they're averaging 26.3, throwing for 287, giving up 27.6 points a game. Caldrea at the quarterback position, closing in on 1,900 yards, 11 touchdowns, 6 picks. But it's Holstein, the transfer from Alabama, and the new offensive scheme for Pat Narduzzi's team has completely changed this team's outlook. They're averaging 38.9, throwing for 306, running for 154, giving up 25.3. Holstein himself closing in on 2,100 yards, 17 touchdowns, 6 picks. This team is prepared for any type of shootout, and it's a Pat Narduzzi team. If you need a defensive stop, he is going to know how to coach it up. I have Pitt winning this one rather handedly, though, 38-24. Let's move back to the SEC here at 7:45 on the SEC Network. 5-4 Oklahoma, trying to get back to being eligible, trying to gain some momentum here versus number 24 Missouri, 6-2. Missouri has a 59.2% chance to win this game, but it's the Oklahoma Sooners who are the favorite here. 3-point favorites. The over-under is 41.5. This is going to be a low-scoring game. Oklahoma's been playing quarterback carousel, Haskins, Jackson Arnold, but Jackson Arnold has stepped up recently, closing in on 1,200 yards, 12 touchdowns, 3 picks. The big issue for Missouri has been injuries. Will Cook be playing this game? If he plays, will he be healthy? He's closing with 1,600 yards, 7 touchdowns, 1 picks. But Missouri is the veteran team. Oklahoma, very talented team. Very good defense statistically, but can the offense get those first downs? They're averaging 25.3. They're giving up 21 points a game. Missouri, they average 27.8. They throw for 239. They run for 172. Their defense is a top 25 when giving up 17.9 points a game. They have the experienced playmakers. Cook, Noel, Weiss Jr., Burden. If they get that whole team on the field, I have the upset. Missouri winning this one 24-20. And our second to last one here at 10:15 p.m. on ESPN. Number 9 BYU undefeated, 8-0 coming off the bye week. Fully rested here. They're top 10 leading the Big 12. They'll be playing Utah 4-4, a very underachieving this season. I put all the blame on Cam Rising, but Kyle Whittingham, great coach. He has to take some of that. You've allowed Cam Rising to hold this team hostage. The guy's been playing college football for 27 years so far. Right now, BYU has a 59.5% chance to win this game. Retzlaff closing in on 1,800 yards, 18 touchdowns, 7 picks. They live off the turnovers. They get a lot of their scores off the turnovers. That's great, but at some point, you have to generate those long drives. Utah's defense is a top 15 defense. They're going to make it difficult for you to move the ball down the field on them. BYU, they're averaging 35.1, throwing for 249, running for 168.5, giving up 19.6 points a game. BYU's a 3-point favorite here. Utah, they average 22.8. Wilson has a lot of turnovers. That bodes well for BYU. They live on the turnovers. Wilson turns the ball over a lot, but they're only giving up 16.5 points a game. When you have that physical elite defense of Utah, you can keep any game low scoring. How close, though, for how long? That's the big question, but you could steal a couple turnovers here. This is a potential upset game, but I have BYU winning a really close one here, 20-16, but this is definitely a game you need to keep your eye on here. It has upset alert written all over it. And our final game is going to have a lot of points at 10:30 p.m. on the CW Network. 2-6 Utah State versus number 21 Washington State, 7-1. Utah State has quite possibly the worst defense in all of college football. They average 27.8. They throw for 308. They run for 157. Their defense gives up 41.5 points a game, 520 yards given up per game, 41.5 points. That is ridiculous. This defense is awful. Washington State is going to love it. They're averaging 38.1, throwing for 300.9, but they're also running for 168.4. Their defense giving up 26.9. Washington should theoretically be able to move the ball at will here, passing, running the ball. Mateer's having one of the best seasons in all of college football. He's a guy that you've not heard of that is letting it up, a top 10 college quarterback, closing on 2,200 yards, 18 touchdowns, 6 picks, and he can add 10 rushing touchdowns to that. He's also ran for 600 yards himself. Very talented. They have Williams at the wide receiver position. This team is loaded offensively. Their only loss was a loss to Boise. That's a good loss right now. They're still 7-1, still potentially competing for that group of 5 spot. I have Washington cruising here, winning it 44-20. So that's our quick picks of all of our Week 11 college football games. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe. If you have any comments about these games or anything else, please drop it below and I will respond. Thank you.